Hi, welcome to Quilting with Lori. My name is Lori Dickman, and today I'm going to be continuing the series that I have been working on for the last few weeks on how to use your scrap stash to make beautiful scrappy quilts. We have been working through this book of mine. This is my Speedy Patterns book, and it corresponds to my Speedy Techniques book. This book set is out on my website. I'll have links below in the description box if you're interested in checking that out. But today I'm going to share with you how to work on this particular quilt. This one is called the Ohio Star Distinctions. The quilt that you see here on my wall is a wall size quilt. You'll find that with all of my patterns in my Speedy Solutions Patterns book, you can make the quilts as large or as small as you want them to be by just simply making more or less blocks for each of the quilts. This one is just a nice wall size quilt. It's a really fast and fun one. The blocks are big. They're 12.5-inch unfinished. They finish 12 inches in the quilt. They go together very quickly. There are 4 patches and the Ohio Star block. So it's very simple to make. So I want to take you to the tabletop here and you can see how this is done. One thing I do want to point out, in my scrap stash, since I have such a large scrap stash, I was able to kind of control the color or the values in this quilt. I have some creams, yellows, and lavenders. Some of them are darker lavender, some of them are medium. But because I have a scrap stash that's quite extensive, I was able to pull the values that I needed from the light, medium, and dark from the creams, yellows, and lavenders or purples in my stash. And that gives it more of a controlled, scrappy look. So here we are at my tabletop. These are the 2 books. This is my Techniques book. It teaches you everything you need to know to get your scrap stash cut, sorted, organized, stored, and ready to use to make beautiful quilts. There are 5 scrappy patterns in there, and there are 12 additional scrappy patterns in this book. And we use the techniques from this book to make all of these quilts. And today we are going to be working on the Ohio Star. Let me see if I can get to it real quickly here so I can show you where it is in the book. There we go. The Ohio Distinctions. And we're going to be working on these 3 blocks. So first of all, I'm going to show you how to put the Ohio Star block together. I'm going to share with you what you need to pull from your scrap stash. So one of the things you'll learn in my Techniques book is how I store my stash. And I do use these tubs. These are just plastic tubs you can get at the dollar store, at Walmart, Target, IKEA, all over. And then I do like to mark all around what's in the tubs. These happen to be 3-inch squares in light, medium, and dark. And these are tubs that I get at the dollar store for larger squares. So I have some 6-inch squares in there. So that is what I'm using for storage of my squares. So what I did, I took my pattern and I went to my storage containers and pulled what I needed in the proper size and value to create the blocks. So for each of the Ohio Star block, this is what you're going to need to pull. And then you'll multiply this times the number of Ohio Star blocks you intend to put in your quilt. So first of all, we needed 4 dark squares that were 4-inch squares, so I have 4 of those here. We needed 2 5.5-inch medium squares, and these are the lavender ones here. We needed 4 3.5-inch light squares. I have those right there. And then we needed 1 6.5-inch light medium square. This represents the yellow in the actual square here, but for mine it is a green. So this is what I'm going to need for each and every Ohio Star block that I'm creating. For this block, we're actually going to be creating 4 of these flying geese units. And a simple way for you to accomplish that is to take your base. This is the base of the flying geese unit, and these are the little star points of the flying geese unit. And what I'm simply going to do is cut these 5.5-inch squares on the diagonal. And once I do that, I'll have a total of 4 of the base units for the flying geese. And that will be these 4 triangles right there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here in just a minute. I'm also going to take these 4 4-inch dark squares, and I'll match them all up, and I'm going to cut those on the diagonal once, and then I will have a total of 8 of the points for the stars. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you how I'm going to lay this out and sew it together. I have these two 5.5-inch lavenders lined up, and I am going to cut diagonally point to point. So now I have a total of 4 of these triangles. I'm going to take these. I think I'm going to try and cut them all at once. We'll see how this works here. And these are the 4 4-inch darks. And I'm going to cut those diagonally, and so I now have my 8 points. So let me move this out of the way and show you how we're going to put this together. I'm going to lay the block out here on the tabletop so you can kind of see how it's going to go together. The 4 light 3.5-inch squares are going to go out in each of the corners. This is the 6.5-inch light medium, or the yellow. It represents the yellow here, and mine happens to be green. And then we are going to take these lavender triangles that we have just cut, and they're going to be placed in each of these spots here. And then we're simply going to put together the flying geese unit by sewing these smaller triangles to the larger triangle. And you can match these up so they're all matchy-matchy or not, whatever you'd like to do. I think the scrappier the better, but totally up to you, whatever you would like on your quilt. Let's see, I'll put this one over here. Let's put this one there, put this one here. So that will be the Ohio Star. And when you sew these flying geese units together, you're simply going to match up one of them just like that. Make sure that is parallel at the bottom here. And you're going to sew a scant 1/4 inch on this longer side here. I would start up at this point where you've got more of a 90-degree, or a straight edge, I should say. And you'll start sewing here and go all the way down, and then you're going to press it open. Then you'll do the same with this one. You'll flip it right sides together, line it up across the bottom there, start up here and sew 1/4 inch, and then press it open, and then we'll square this up. I believe we'll be squaring this up to 3.5 inches by 6.5 inches. As you can see here, I have 3 of the flying geese units ready. They have been constructed and pressed and squared up to 3.5 by 6.5. And you always want to make sure that you maintain that 1/4 inch seam allowance right up here, because that is going to be sewn into the seam here, and you don't want to lose your points. So I have my last one right here. Let me grab my rotating mat here. And so I need to trim this up. I have my 6.5-inch OmniGrid ruler. And I'm squaring this up to 3.5 inches by 6.5 inches. And here is the block. Very simple one to put together. So now you just have 3 rows to put together. Make sure that your points are facing out away from the center so that it's creating the star. And this is the Ohio Star block. A very simple one to put together. I think the scrappier the better. As long as you have the dark values, the medium values, and the light values, it creates a beautiful quilt. Now let's take a look at how we put the simple 4 patches together. For the Ohio Star distinctions, you're going to make 2 different 4 patches. One of them has the light creams and the light medium yellows. One of them has the light creams and the light yellow and the medium purple or lavender. And you're simply going to make, this is a block B, block C. And let's see how this is put together. Very simple again. Obviously, you're just going to make a simple 4 patch with the 6.5 inch squares. So that is one. That will create this block right here. And you'll notice my lights are different fabrics. And then this one would be the opposite one. And it is simply 6.5 inch squares with the lavender, the green, and the creams. and then that is going to be put together. Let me grab the picture so you can see what it looks like when it's finished. For this quilt, we're making 6 of the Ohio stars, and we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 that are the 4-patch that has both the lavender and the yellow, and just 2 that we're putting right in here that have just the yellow and the cream. So it makes a really fun design there. And of course, if you're making this larger, you can really have fun using your design wall or the floor and making more of all of these blocks, and see what secondary designs you can come up with for this quilt. It'll be a lot of fun. In a moment, or at the end of this video, I'll take a close-up of some of the quilting that I did on this quilt. All of my quilting I do myself. I don't have a computerized long arm. I just do free motion, hand-guided, free motion, maybe ruler work, feathers. I really do enjoy quilting using rulers or just free motion. This happens to use a ruler all across that quilt, and I'll show you that ruler, and I'll show you how I did that quilting here. I'll do a close-up in just a moment for you. Here is the Ohio Star Distinctions quilt that I did, and I used this ruler as I was quilting. This ruler is made by quiltersrule.com, and I'll put a link in the description box below, but I used this in each of the squares, and I simply quilted around it. So you'll see that ruler being used in every one of the squares. And then I just did some echo quilting in the star points and some straight line quilting in the flying geese units and some diagonal quilting in these outer squares here. But in all of the 6.5-inch squares all the way across the quilt, I simply used this ruler as I was quilting the quilt. So again, if you're interested in the quilts that I have been presenting in this series, you'll find them in my Speedy Solutions pattern book, and I'll have these books linked below in the description box. I also have each one of these patterns available as an individual pattern, so if you're just interested in 1 or 2 of them, I have that available on my website as well. You're welcome to go out there and just check around. I've got a lot of photos in my gallery that you'll find out on my website too, so I encourage you to go out there and just take a peek and see what you see out there. I have lots of scrappy quilts, art quilts, template quilts, just a lot of fun things for you to look at. So we've been working our way through this book as I'm teaching you how to use your scraps to make these quilts, and next week we'll be working on Mirror Mirror, which is another really fun one, and great quilts to use up lots of scraps. The blocks are 16.5-inch unfinished blocks, so great large blocks. This whole quilt can get put together so very quickly, and it's a beautiful scrappy quilt for friends or family. So I hope you'll try it, and I look forward to seeing you next week. If you do like the content that I provide on my channel, please don't forget to like and subscribe and comment. I love to read the comments from my viewers. I really enjoy that. And share these videos with your quilt guilds, with your quilting friends. That really does help the channel to grow and to get out to other quilters just like yourself. So thank you so much for doing that for me. And until next week, happy quilting.